Hi everyone, this is Bob Munn, and on behalf of the IFPA Board of Directors, welcome to 2020 Industry Insights. 2020 is part of your board's mission to help IFPA members innovate and prepare for the community publishing challenges of the future. New publishing insights every month provided by the smartest people in our industry, your peers. We have some great sessions scheduled for future months, and we're going to talk about them at the end of this session. But the most important thing we can do at this moment is get right to it. I'm fortunate today to be joined by Brian Rushing, publisher of Point of View magazine in Houma, Louisiana, and Terry Trahan, Point of View's editor. In Houma, Louisiana, Brian Rushing's family published the weekly one ads for decades. And there came a point where Brian decided there was more to being that market's print leader than simply producing a successful shopper every week. Today, Point of View magazine is 5 years old and rocking. Rushing Media has a solid 1-2 punch in that market, advertising is growing, and the readers are happy. I'm sure you'll agree that's something we need to know about. But before we get started, please understand that 2020 is an interactive process. We need you to help drive the conversation. You're going to have questions, and you can submit them from the dashboard on your screen. Brian and Terry will address as many of them as they can within our time constraints. You're a big part of this project, and we're depending on your questions to help drive it. Just as we said at the Publisher Summit, anyone who didn't get his questions answered was probably too shy to ask them. Now, speaking of questions, I have one. Brian, before you conceived Point of View, you had a well-established free paper. What made you feel that your market needed another print competitor?
Well, you're right, Bob. We did have a well-established print paper. When we started Point of View, our paper was 20 years old, and we were averaging about 130, 140 display ads a week. So we were decent with a circulation of about 27,000. But that was all we had been doing for those 20 years. My wife and I had visited other cities and seen all these really cool city magazines start popping up. And we kind of sat on it for a couple of years, and it got to the point where we said, Homa's getting to the size where I think that we could sustain one of these. And if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, and they're going to take our ad dollars. So why don't we just take our own ad dollars and get some other stuff in the process? We were also thinking that we had trouble selling our shopper to some of the higher-end boutiques and some of the doctors and salons and stuff like that. So rather than beating our head on the desk trying to figure out how to sell them this product that they didn't want, I said, well, let's just build something they want and sell it to them that way. So we started the magazine. As Bob said, April is going to be our 5-year anniversary, and we've come a long way from the beginning. Our first issue was 36 pages with 12 ads, and our very first ad sold, which I guess showed us that we were on the right track, was a year contract for the back page to our local mall. And they have kept that position all the way up until this day, and it's just automatic sign every single year for that position. We decided from the very beginning that we would only use locally produced content. I get the question a lot of times at conferences that people ask, well, we've thought about starting something like this in our market. Maybe we could just call Metro or NAP's features or whatever and get some of their content to do this with, and it's add on a little bit of local stuff. And I always tell them, I don't think that's going to work. I think that a big reason we've been successful is because we've kept it local. We use local writers, and we do all local content. The way I like to explain it to people is all that stuff that gets cut at the daily paper because they don't have room for it in their news hole, all those cool feature stories. Well, that's the kind of stuff we run because that's the kind of stuff people really want to hear about. So we've stuck to doing the local topics thing, and once again, I think that's why we've been so successful. Readers can tell when you're buying your content from sources like that, and they realize that it's kind of the lazy way out. And I don't think they can identify with it as well. They never see people that they know every day and things that they see around town every day. So we're talking about doing all this local content. Another question that comes up is, what kind of editorial staff do you do? Because, I mean, we came from a shopper where we didn't have any editorial staff. We never had to worry about that. And a lot of other people are in the same position. We started off with hiring just an editor, and we did this for probably 4 years with only an editor and a bunch of freelance photographers and writers. We probably were keeping around between 20 and 30 freelancers on call, kind of call them whenever we need them, and that worked really well for about 4 years. We got to where we were growing kind of too big for that model. So since then, we've hired another kind of on-staff writer that also helps to edit and does assignments and that kind of stuff. And that's about where we're at right now. We still keep a big group of editors also. I mean, a big group of freelancers also. We found a lot of those freelancers through our local school's journalism department, and just by running ads in our paper, there's a lot of people that we found love to write, so just kind of let them write. They just want to be published. My budget for the freelancers has been less than $500 a month for a long time, and now it only occasionally gets higher than that when we have like a big set of photos or maybe some really long articles that we're running. And so it doesn't really cost a ton of money. I'm going to let Terry talk for a minute more about the editorial side of the business.
Sure.
Go ahead, Terry.
One thing about our editorial in the past 5 years, it's still crazy that we're celebrating 5 years here in April already. But POV has grown so much in such a short period of time that we've really had to kind of, fly at the seat of our pants to try to figure out, how to evolve with this thing as it did grow. And we've really seen a lot of changes too. We're still distributed monthly. Beginning with the April issue, we're going to be printed on 70-pound text paper with 100-pound matte cover. It had been on a 60-pound text paper with a 70-pound cover. We average about 100 pages monthly. Starting with our April issue, we're really proud to say that we're transitioning from saddle stitching to perfect binding. We felt like this was the next proper step in the evolution of our publication, and it's something that our entire staff is pretty excited about. And we're still, what we're really excited about is that we're still free. We're a free publication. We distribute monthly to over 200 local restaurants, boutiques, medical offices, businesses. In other words, we're all over town. Our editorial content is really circulating and reaching as much of our community as we possibly can. Since the beginning, the goal, as Brian said, has been to keep it local, to keep it here in our Houma Thibodeau community in South Louisiana. We really wanted this publication to embody that spirit of community. This is an interesting group of people that we have down here. It's a very unique culture, and we like that flair that it has, and we really wanted that to shine through in POV. We have about 28,000 monthly readers who get to join in on that conversation that continues to evolve every month. We keep all content, as we said, local. We want to establish that connection with our readers. This keeps them interested in both what we're talking about now, and it keeps them coming back in the future months as well. So we were able to sustain our readership with our content. The early format, point of view, in case you're wondering about the spelling of view, it's actually derived from the French heritage, VUE. We wanted to be feature-based. We knew that in the beginning. And the mission, of course, was to give locals a medium through which they could share their own points of view on local, regional, national headlines. If we did venture into those regional, national topics, we always wanted to find a way to localize that. We wanted to talk to local sources about anything that was going on in the news. Say it was something university related, we talked to our own university in our own backyard, Nichols, to find out what they thought on that particular topic. POV was designed to be classy. There was no other publication like us in town with the full gloss professional magazine image that we had developed. We wanted it to be educational, and of course we wanted it to be inspired by those who call this community home. As I mentioned, we wanted it to be feature-based. We wanted it to be written by locals about locals, and we included columns that were written by local experts. We didn't buy content from big wire services and other distributors. We wanted to talk to gardening experts here in our town. We wanted to talk to spirits experts in our town. We wanted to talk to doctors in our own town to get their opinions on things that our residents deal with. Of course, editorial did evolve. We started with shorter features, about 600 to 800 words each. That decreased in length to about 1,000 to 1,500 words, and that's kind of largely due to our audit that we do every year. We learned that over 50% of our readers have graduated from college or have some college education. So basically, we learned that we have educated readers, and that allowed us to begin writing at a higher level so that we could speak directly to them in their language. They would be able to understand it. We also became more aware of the national and regional news circuit, and as I mentioned, we began to develop those angles from a local perspective. We placed our longer stories, this was a strategy we developed along the way. We placed our longer stories closer to those expert op-ed articles near the back of the magazine. We did this because we knew how popular those expert columns were in the back, and we wanted to put those longer stories back there so that they would create greater reader interest, that the readers would want to get into those stories. For instance, one thing that we did in the recent March 2012 issue was a story that you see here called Tradition in the New Orthodox. We basically, after a brainstorming session one afternoon, we decided, hey, what's going on with church in our local community? It's changing, it's evolving. We see people wearing blue jeans to church. We see people, bringing iPads as their Bibles to church. We see people, worshiping differently, and that's just one facet of our society that we noticed was evolving with culture. And so we decided, hey, let's write a feature about it. And it's one of our stronger pieces that we've done, and it's one of those pieces that got put closer to the back with those expert columns. And as you see here, the conversational tone began to develop as well as we began to evolve and grow. We really found it important that we actually speak to the reader and not just give them just straightforward content, but actually include them in the conversation, talk about things that they deal with on a daily basis, talk about things that they're interested in their lives. And we talk to our readers and not necessarily just giving information to our readers. While POV has gravitated toward culture, arts, and personality profiles, human interest remains what we do. We talk about local sports, education, business, quirky hobbies, anything that's different with a unique point of view in our own community. That's the kind of stuff that we gravitate toward. It's not always stuff you'll find in the local newspaper. It's not always stuff you'll find, online, but it's stuff that we need to talk about here in our own hometown, and we try to bring that out each and every month. Also, because of our roots, our Cajun and Creole roots, we've tried to keep some form of content in every issue. We really believe strongly in our heritage, and we want that to be a central focus of our editorial direction as well. As I mentioned, that conversational tone, works to connect those who call the same community home. These are all people who work together, worship together, shop together, attend classes together, raise their children together. We're all, in a way, integrated in the place that we call home here in Houma Thibodaux. And we wanted POV to kind of be the connecting device that brought all of us together. And this sense of unified community-based camaraderie has really been what I believe the key to the success of POV over the past 5 years. So what can you expect to find every month? Here's a sample, just as we mentioned, human interest topics, such as a prominent lawyer who was colorblind but paints magnificent works of art. We had a man in the Chapalaya Swamp who we found who collects driftwood, and he developed sculptures from these pieces. His work has been featured in museums across the Northeast. We have young entrepreneurs impacting lives. As this young lady here, her name's Monique, and she started a fashion show to help raise money for food drives in her local Thibodaux community. So we find interesting, colorful characters in our community every month that really helps to provide that unique stamp that POV has been able to put on this community here. We also have Expert View, which is locals in the know. These are monthly columns. We have one called Living Well, which is about fitness, health, and wellness. We have Check It Out, which are book suggestions from local librarians. We have Behind the Brew, a behind-the-scenes look at your favorite spirits from a local established spirits distributor. A View from the Vine, which is wine reviews from an expert at a local supermarket. Bon Appetit, a recipe provided by an executive chef at a local fine dining establishment. Smart Connection, which is tech advice from a local electronics repair shop. Underground Sound, these are reviews on bands that you may not have heard, but you're going to really like in the near future. And it's just a way to add that interesting, entertaining flair to what we do. We also have content that readers like to read first. These are things they gravitate toward when they first pick up the magazine. Something called POV Picks, in which our staff picks 5 items or services from our community every month that people may not know about that they would find interesting. Interview, we talk to 6 locals and ask them just random questions, kind of a sharp Q&A that's just designed to be fun. Our Look Twice puzzle is sponsored by a local business here in town. And our graphics team takes 2 images, and one is altered in 6 different ways, and it becomes a contest in which people can actually win a prize for submitting their answers. It's a way to get the audience connected with the magazine and involved. The Final Countdown talks to someone in the community and asks them 7 things about what they do. Smarty Pants is just a quiz to kind of keep you educated, and we have timeouts that are kind of dispersed throughout our editorial features to kind of keep things moving along throughout the magazine so that it's not all heavy features, but content that's broken up as well. And these are all designed to achieve that connection with our readers. As far as POV distribution, we're looking at 12,500 to 13,000 free copies monthly. We have 2.45 average readers per edition, which comes out to 30,000 to 32,000 monthly readers. We learned that over 50% of our readers keep each issue a month or longer. They are distributed in racks at over 200 locations across our community. They are strategically placed in high traffic locations so that everyone has access to be able to pick one up. And we keep that updated distribution list available on our website. We're constantly updating as new businesses get on board to begin distributing POV. And so our readers have a convenient place where they can go and access it at any time. And I'll turn it over to Brian to talk more about why we need to audit and the importance of kind of keeping in touch with the numbers behind the publication.
Well, like pretty much everybody on this call, we get a CVC audit from paid for by IFPA and also some of the state and regional associations because we're members of IFPA and those associations. And we use it a ton, especially the readership portion of it. And because from the beginning we wanted this thing to be high-end and we were targeting high-end readers, that's a little bit tougher to do with a rack distribution. We're extremely selective about the locations that we put our magazine in. They have to be in certain sections of town. They have to have a certain clientele, and that aligns with the demographic that we're looking for. So the only way we knew that we were doing that well was to get an audit, and especially the readership audit. So I called Tim Bingaman up, asked him what it cost. It wasn't that bad, and we just paid for it. So we've used it ever since. My salespeople love it, and we love it because it tells us that we're doing what we're trying to do as far as the demographic that we're trying to reach. And that is, even if it wasn't useful for selling, it would be useful for that, to make sure that you're doing what you're should be doing. So I know it all sounds like this thing worked perfectly well, and but it didn't. We made quite a few mistakes along the way, as evidenced by those who were listening by our first issue only selling 12 ads. That's something I'll talk about in a little bit. First off, we were used to putting out 27,000 copies of our weekly paper. We were like, no big deal. We'll order 10,000 of these. We'll get rid of them like crazy. Well, it's very hard to get distribution locations without a hard product, so we had to wait for them to come in to actually start going solicit locations. By the end of the month, we'd only gotten rid of half, and we had to throw away thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product. So next month we ordered 8, and we put out about 7. Next month we ordered 8 again, and we put out 8, and we slowly grown that. It took us about the rest of the year to get up to that 12,000 number, and we've actually stayed there. We could probably put out 20,000 copies and have them all picked up, but I like the urgency that having a scarce product embodies with your readers. They got to rush to get it, so the stands are clear in about a week, and I'm okay with that. We got little signs that we put on the bottom that says, "Oh, better luck next time," and stuff like that. So it's kind of a fun thing. Another thing, we started out with our ad pricing way too low, I thought. We didn't really know how to price this thing because it was very, very new to us, and it's kind of difficult to get magazine rates from equivalent publications in other markets. They're kind of reluctant to release that information, and I think we're still a little bit too low. So over the years, we've done some pretty hefty increases. Our first 3 years were 10%, and even this year, we went up 7%. I didn't feel like our economic climate here could handle quite a 10% increase, but we got to do something to try to catch up. We also, for most of us, are very good at selling by column edge. Well, newsflash, your customers hate it because it's difficult for them. And about 3 years ago, we got rid of it for our weekly product and went to modular there. And we started this thing out with modular. We decided to do full pages, half, quarter, and eighth in a few different orientations. Over the years, we got rid of, we only offer eighths with a 12-month contract. We do open 3 and 6 and 12-month contracts. If I were to do it again, I would definitely not offer an 8-page ad. It's too inexpensive, and it just clutters up the magazine. And I would also consider not offering quarters. If your market can handle that, the pricing that you need to get for a half-page ad, then don't even think about doing quarters. A magazine with just halves and full pages would look fantastic. And there's some people that are just going to buy the smallest size, so why not make it a bigger size than what you originally were thinking about? Also, as you grow, you need to aggressively shop your printing. You're going to be bigger, and you're going to be putting out more copies. So you'll be able to take advantage of bigger and more aggressive, and printers will much more aggressively find or quote your product. I've just moved to our 4th printer. We've saved 15 to 25% every single time. If I were still with the original printer, we'd probably be paying about double what we pay now for less capability. Also, we dabbled over the years with allowing our old sales reps to sell this as well. That is a huge mistake. We currently have 2 totally separate sales teams that sell our 2 products, and that works extremely well. We're very successful with that. I just think that people, especially with a magazine and a shopper, they're way too different. You have way too different of a selling style, and the expectations for most of the customers are very, very different as well. And the salespeople have to be in that mode. They can't just switch back and forth. What else? So I think that's probably about all I have. I know everybody's got some questions, so we'll get to that kind of stuff.
Well, that was a quick transition. Okay, well, here at Question Central, we do have some stuff coming in. I'll tell you how good these guys are. Almost as soon as Dave sent in a question that says, "How do you select story topics?" Terry covered that in depth. Now, one question that we were getting multiple times is, will these slides in this presentation be available online? And it will. We're recording this as we speak, and with any luck at all, we're going to we're going to be able to provide you with a YouTube address to go to, and you can hear this whole thing again, with the exception of that bozoed up entry, which we'll take care of in post production. The Okay, but we do have that now. One question that's coming up more than once, and that is that with regard to distribution. This has come up 2 or 3 times. And by the way, you can still get these questions in. Shoot them to me. I'm glad you guys can sell, because not all of you can type from what I can see here. But I'm gonna paraphrase a couple of different questions. But when you at your drop points, your demand drop points in your stores, do you wind up with situations where people try to charge you a premium to distribute in those stores?
No, we don't pay for a single one of our locations with either of our publications. There have been some stores that have tried that, and we just pull our racks. We're not going to play that game. I feel that our products are valuable enough, and they are valuable enough to the place's customers that they'll pick them up. And they look good. We keep our racks looking good, and the store owners value the publications as well, especially the magazine. So they want to see it there. I mean, we've got it when they don't have room for a rack, they'll let us put them on their counters next to their register. They're all readers as well, so that in essence is almost home delivery for them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Right. Most businesses too, like they'll actually contact us first and say, hey, we really want to be able to get POV here at our location. We have clients who'll come in and they'll ask for it, and they'll say, oh, hey, why aren't you carrying POV? People are beginning to expect to find the magazine at, like we mentioned, boutiques and doctors' offices and things like that. And when they don't have them, the clients are actually now beginning to wonder, hey, why is it not here? And so these businesses are actually contacting us to try to get these racks in their locations so that they can get that monthly shipment whenever they come out the first.
Yeah. If you got the goods, people will stand in line to distribute that. That's the great thing about having a product like this. I've had a couple of requests for the URL for POV.
It's povhouma.com. Do not go to pov.com.
Okay, POV. Let me guess. Okay, and Houma is spelled Houma. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct.
That's right.
Okay. One gentleman said, can we get a copy mailed to us if we send some money for postage?
Sure. Go to povhouma.com and look up our address, and or get with.
You can actually email subscriptions@povhouma.com.
Or do that.
And we would be happy to take care of that for them.
Excellent.
We'll be able to send the rates and the procedure for actually being able to get that.
Okay, we're getting a number of questions along the line of the crossover between your weekly product and your magazine product. What's the crossover of your advertiser group?
To tell you the truth, maybe only, I don't know, 5%, maybe. Less
all
than
new
10,
customers.
Less than 10 customers. Yeah, it's a totally different market.
So that new mall customer that was your first customer out of the gate, that was a brand new customer for you with the magazine, right?
Yeah. The vast majority of them are.
Excellent. Okay, now I also have a question that relates to that. Do you have a combination rate for that? Do you attempt to combination sell it, or it's just two different
No,
animals?
we sell them totally separately. Separately. The way I think about that is, if somebody else in town had started up this magazine, would they get a combination rate for buying two different medias? We're not selling them as a package. We're trying to differentiate them. I mean, we do portray ourselves in the community as a group that does all of these things, but I feel like they stand alone. The price is the price, and it's worth what we're asking for it. So that's how that's a that's what we take.
Good, good. Okay, now we have I think we have some folks out there who are looking at this and they see the things that you've done, and in the back of their mind they're saying, people in my market, not that interesting. I don't know. Terry, how would you respond to something like that?
That's kind of been a challenge that we've had to adapt to, through the years. Even with a great culture that we have here in Houma Thibodeau, it's not always easy finding the ideas until you figure out where to look, where to actually go for that. And I think it's pretty much the same in any community. A lot of our ideas are submitted by community members. We do look at churches, we look at schools, we pull a lot from nonprofit organizations, we pull a lot from different startup groups. We pull from really any assembled group in this town. Whether it be musically inclined people, or whether it be artsy people, or whether it be, as I mentioned, something in the education sector. We're always pulling from our schools and those institutions in your community that have always been there and will always be there. The whole idea is just to ask around. You have to talk to people. When you go to these places, you just bring up, in conversation, hey, we're coming up with new ideas for future issues. Do you have anyone that is doing anything really spectacular this month or in the upcoming months? Do you know of anyone who's doing something that's worthy of mentioning? There's always somebody, even if it's someone who's growing a prize-winning pumpkin in their backyard, or if they're starting up some triathlon to raise money for some medical cause, or someone's always up to something in your community. Not everyone is just sitting there on a couch watching TV all day, or just not getting actively involved. There's someone and a group of people who are trying to make a difference, who are trying to do something positive, and they need the recognition. They're looking for that publicity. And so if you just look hard enough, if you just put the call for submissions out there, we've learned that we've gotten a pretty good response from that. And I think that's something that can be adapted to any community, especially even the smaller ones.
Here's a question that I know a couple of people are asking. This, you say, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to find an editor like Terry. Where do you find an editor like Terry? You and I were just talking about. I've been talking to this guy for a couple of weeks. I thought he'd been doing this for years. What did you just recently do?
Yeah, I actually just graduated from college last May. But the way that I got involved with the magazine is through internships. I was studying journalism and print media at Southeastern Louisiana University in Hammond, and I really took a liking to magazine journalism and really enjoyed those classes that I was taking, and I wanted to get involved with a publication locally so that I could get some practical experience actually doing what I had learned. And it just so happens that POV had started up in 2007, and around 2008 I was looking to get involved with something. And so I started out, I put it in my resume, I became a freelance writer. I did that for a couple of years. I got to know Brian and Bonnie through the process, and Bonnie was the editor who was in charge before I took over. And I just got to know the staff, and I got to know the people, I got to know the product. And a year later, 2 years later, I was interning over the summers. I did 2 internships for 2 consecutive summers. And I was able to apply what I had learned through those internships into my college courses as well. So that by the time that I graduated in May of 2011, the POV was ready to expand their editorial staff, and they welcomed me aboard to become an executive editor. I had already gained the experience. I knew the product. I knew our readers. I knew the kind of content that we were looking to get into the magazine. And so I was able to get that higher position because of my experience and my involvement that I had already put in with POV. And then, about a year later, actually this past February, our former editor, Bonnie, Brian's wife, was ready to step down. She wanted to raise her family, and she was ready to kind of back away from this publication that she loved so much. And it was a big honor that they offered that position to me to become the editor. And I think that was largely based on the experience. I had been doing this for quite a few years with POV exclusively, and I knew the product, and we've been able to grow it and develop it, and that's kind of I think the formula for success is if you can find a good intern and grow that person and cultivate that person to your product specifically, in a couple of years you have someone who knows it really well, and can take the reins and keep it going and help it to grow and achieve the success that it already has.
That's terrific. So guys like Terry are out there. We just got to find them, and
they are. And college kids are always looking for a job. They're always looking to get involved. They're not doing it just to go take classes. They're wanting to get into the workforce, and they're wanting to get involved with careers that they're really interested in. And so just talk to universities, talk to institutions that are teaching these kind of courses, and there are always going to be students who want to become interns and who will be more than happy to work for free or just for the experience, just to be able to do what they really enjoy doing. And I think
you have no idea how many eyes just lit up when you said free. All across the country, they're doing that. Hey, now I got a question here, Brian. Steve has a question, which is kind of inside baseball, and I don't know if you have these numbers in front of you or not. But his question is, with a 60-40 editorial to ads ratio, what's your printing percentage to total revenue? Yeah, he assumes that percentage is higher than your weekly printing percentage.
Yes, it is. These pretty magazines are very expensive to print. I can do it in my head pretty quickly. Probably a little bit less than, right at 25%. Right about that. It hovers right around there. Because at the level that we're at, it's most cost effective to go up in 16-page or 8-page increments. So it kind of fluctuates a little bit here and there. It's not as easy to go up in 4-page increments. So, but yeah, it's about 25%. It's pretty high. But then we don't really have hardly any distribution costs either, so that helps out a lot.
Now, and I have a question here. What audit numbers are considered good for a magazine? Do you have targets there, or what?
With respect to which?
I would say he's probably asking in terms of market penetration and readership.
I have no earthly idea. All I know is that Tim says that we're doing awesome, so I take that.
If Tim says so, then that's all we.
Yeah, I have nothing to compare it to. I don't really know. I also know that I don't think that a ton of magazines like us are audited.
So there's no real benchmark nationally to go against. So you just know what you're doing there.
Magazines, but I don't really know how many of them, especially in our area, are. So we really use it more for our the readership audit, our demographics than anything. So.
Okay. Now, I'm going to try to sum up 2 or 3 questions here with one question. If you were starting up over again, fresh, what are, say, 3 or 4 benchmarks that you would look for, things you would do, sort of a roadmap to somebody to get started?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I kind of figured it would come up, so I thought about it beforehand so that I wouldn't be caught off guard. The first thing that I would do is we got lucky in that we thought this thing was cool and our market was ready for it. If I were to do it again, I'd do a little more research and make sure that it's the concept that we're looking at Maybe you're not looking to do a city magazine. Maybe you're looking to do a women's or a family or a health magazine or something like that, or an outdoors magazine. You have to make sure that A, there are enough readers that fit that particular demographic that are going to be interested in it to pick it up, that you have enough readers to sell, and B, that you've got enough potential advertisers in your circulation area that you can sell enough ads to pay for the thing. If you're looking to do a healthcare magazine and you've only got, well, maybe 50 of that type of businesses in your area, well, that's not going to work because you're not going to get all of them. You're not even going to get half of them, and you can't survive on less than 25 ads. So you really got to look at that and figure out where you're going to go with that and do that research before you go really anywhere. We kind of screwed up also in that we hired one additional salesperson, and we were like, we'll let our other salespeople sell this thing. That's why we ended up with only 12 ads. I would right off the bat, I mean, these guys, pay them a small base and say, look, just go crazy on commission. And I would hire at least 3 salespeople right off the bat, probably 3 or 4 months in advance, and get them working on it so that you come out with a bang and you can come out with 30 or 40 ads already sold. The other thing that we did right was we didn't rush our first issue. We were originally planning on trying to do this thing for March. March came down to the wire, and you know what? We just weren't ready. It wasn't as polished as we wanted it to be. We really felt like we were rushing it, and we knew that as soon as we put this one out, we had to do another one. So we wanted to be ready for that also. So we just pushed the whole thing back to April. We called all our advertisers and said, you know what? We want this thing to be right. We want it to be perfect. I just want to let you guys know we're going to be 1 month behind. Gave them an opportunity to change the ads they had submitted, and it came out, and it was better than we thought it could be. So I guess those are the main things. Research your potential advertisers, research your readers, hire salespeople right off the bat rather than trying to get your existing people to sell it, and don't feel like you got to rush to get it out.
That's good advice from people who've been there. We're getting up against the end of our time limit here today, and as usual, we've run out of time long before we run out of ideas. But to sum up, I think we can all see what Brian and Terry have accomplished with a strong move toward Point of View magazine. Throughout its history, this industry has been playing checkers, a very predictable game, all the pieces moving in the same way. Today, we're playing chess. The pieces are much more capable and much more difficult to predict and control. The most powerful piece on the chessboard is the queen. In our game, we have a bunch of new digital pieces with exciting capabilities and potential, but the most powerful piece on our chessboard continues to be print. Point of View magazine makes every piece on Rushing Media's chessboard stronger. They're an undeniable force in that market, and they're having fun. That's something I think we can all appreciate, and we certainly appreciate Brian and Terry sharing their experience with us this morning. We had a question on this earlier, and I can tell you, as in previous months, we've attempted to record this session. With any luck, we'll have this posted on YouTube along with the 2 previous sessions. Watch the IFPA website, tip, and your email for location of those links. In the meantime, to give you an idea of what you can look forward to in future months, in April, Barb Perry and Doug Fabian will team up to demonstrate what they do to generate excitement on their sales teams. Spiffs, contests, all sorts of little team motivation ideas. I don't know about you, but I can't think of any 2 people better qualified when it comes to keeping a sales team on track. In May, Our good friend Tim Bingham, and founder of Circulation Verification Council, will be in the house. He's a guy who talks to more media buyers in a week than your best national sales rep does in a month. If you want some insight into how the rest of the world sees your market, I can't think of a better way to do it than to spend 20 minutes with Tim. He'll be with us in May. Now, in the meantime, this is Bob Munn, speaking for Brian Rushing, Terry Trahan, and the entire IFPA Board of Directors, saying, the future doesn't begin tomorrow. It's starting right now, this instant, with what you plan to do with the ideas you heard today. There's still plenty of time today to help your customers make some money, and you're just the folks to do it. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for stopping in. Hi everyone, this is Bob Munn, and on behalf of the IFPA Board of Directors, welcome to 2020 Industry Insights. 2020 is part of your board's mission to help IFPA members innovate and prepare for the community publishing challenges of the future. New publishing insights every month provided by the smartest people in our industry, your peers. We have some great sessions scheduled for future months, and we're going to talk about them at the end of this session. But the most important thing we can do at this moment is get right to it. I'm fortunate today to be joined by Brian Rushing, publisher of Point of View magazine in Houma, Louisiana, and Terry Trahan, Point of View's editor. In Houma, Louisiana, Brian Rushing's family published the weekly One ads for decades. And there came a point where Brian decided there was more to being that market's print leader than simply producing a successful shopper every week. Today, Point of View magazine is 5 years old and rocking. Rushing Media has a solid 1-2 punch in that market, advertising is growing, and the readers are happy. I'm sure you'll agree that's something we need to know about. But before we get started, please understand that 2020 is an interactive process. We need you to help drive the conversation. You're going to have questions, and you can submit them from the dashboard on your screen. Brian and Terry will address as many of them as they can within our time constraints. You're a big part of this project, and we're depending on your questions to help drive it. Just as we said at the Publisher Summit, anyone who didn't get his questions answered was probably too shy to ask them.